to Best. Here he goes! And George Best sets a club scoring record.
I consider myself an entertainer. I mean, I think it was a big part of football, and I always tried to entertain people. I mean, it was show business as far as I was concerned.
Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. They say, Georgie, Georgie, keep your feet on the ground. Georgie, Georgie, when you listen to the sound. Georgie, Georgie, put a light on your name. Hey, 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 play the game. Play the game. Oh, play the game. Just play the way the ball bounces and bounce the way the ball plays. Cause you won't have long in the limelight. No, you won't have many days. When you live and you play for United, with your life and your blood and your soul. You run and you kick and you fight it, and you learn every way to the goal. Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast joy. And they say, Georgie, Georgie, keep your feet on the ground. Georgie, Georgie, when you listen to the sound. Georgie, Georgie, put a light on your name. Yeah, 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 play the game.
Hello and welcome from Windsor Park in Belfast, where Northern Ireland's wayward genius George Best will have his testimonial after all. 6 months ago, of course, George was devastated when the IFA turned down his application for the game. But following an outcry from the public, the IFA had a rethink and, to their credit, have changed their mind. Coming up, a tribute to one of the world's greatest ever players. But looking ahead to the testimonial, George is very happy after thinking it wouldn't happen.
Surprised, but pleasantly surprised. I think really at the end of the day, something like this, you have to, it's down to the general public. I mean, if nobody shows up on the night, you know, that's up to them. If it's full on the night, that's also up to the public. You know, they're the ones who decide. And really, the original sort of committee were only asking for permission. That's all they wanted. And then they were the ones that were going to do the hard work. But it's nice that, you know, it's come around, it's worked out well. And I think the time of the year as well, the timing is right, weather-wise and availability of the players. So I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I really had thought it was a lost cause, so to speak.
May I say so, you're looking very trim.
I just started getting really into training. I've had a lot of problems with one of my knee and circulation in one of my legs. It's blown up really badly over the last couple of months. I've been having treatment on it, and I've just started back training again. So I'm hoping I've got another few months to get fit for the big night. So I want to get down to my fighting weight, so to speak, by then. So I'm feeling good in myself as well, which also helps a lot.
Bobby Charlton, United moving forward again. Manchester there, George Best with a lot of room to work. Gibbons on his right. Best again. A glorious goal by Best. What a magnificent goal by Best.
Brian Kidd to George Best. Fitzpatrick. Best going in on it. Best! Oh, beautifully taken by Best! What a magnificent goal by Best!
George Best, for whom the word superstar could almost have been invented. A Pied Piper who attracted thousands to watch his unique artistry. Sadly, he was to become an enigma, unable to cope with his genius. A glittering career at the top was ended prematurely, and recent headlines have centred on his continuous battle against a drink problem. Many have said he wasted his talent, yet he's achieved much more than most people think. In 1968, he was named European Footballer of the Year, English Player of the Year, and helped Manchester United win the European Cup. He also won 2 league championship medals, as United won the First Division title in 1965 and 1967. A 15-year-old Best joined United as an amateur in 1961. In May 1963, he signed professional forms. In September that year, he made his first-team debut. In all, he was to spend almost 11 years at Old Trafford, playing a total of 464 first-team games, scoring 178 goals. Indeed, he's the last United player to score over 20 league goals in a season.
It was a dream come true for me. Well, it would have been for any kid. You know, 15 years old, basically for someone to just come up to you and said, you want to play for Manchester United? It was, you know, well, you can't really describe how it was. And almost immediately, you know, within sort of 18 months, you know, 2 years, I was in the first team. You know, at the same time playing in the youth team, I was playing in Europe basically. It was tremendous, yeah. And the fact that I played with so many great players was the icing on the cake.
Manchester United manager during those glory days in the 60s was Matt Busby. Having survived the Munich air disaster in February 1958, when 8 of United's team perished, Busby was in the process of building yet another great side when Best arrived at Old Trafford in the early 60s. The Belfast boy would eventually cause his manager many problems, but the early days were blissful, and 20 years on, Best is still glowing in his praise of Busby as both man and manager.
A genius in both. I was going to say one of the nicest. He's probably the nicest human being I've ever met. He's one of those people. I mean, I remember my father going to Old Trafford for the first time, and he treated him like he was a king. And the next time he went back, my father, he remembered his name, he remembered the name of the kids, he remembered what he drank, where he lived. He just had this talent for making people feel at home. And it wasn't just because he was my father, he did it with everybody. And as a manager, I mean, he wanted football to be played the way it should be played. I mean, we didn't have team talks. He just gave us a ball and said, go out and enjoy yourself. I suppose he could do it with the players he had.
He not only was a great player, he was a great lad at one time. Very, very good. He was very, very good, actually, and very helpful. And even in his early days, when I used to ask him to go and play with some young boys and that type of thing, he used to join in. And when I'd say, I think he's had enough, he'd say, no, it's all right, boss. We'll carry on. And this was George at that time, and he was very, very good.
When you look back, do you now regret having given him a few bad times?
No, because I give him more good times than I ever give him bad times. You know, I look back and at the end of the day, I happen to believe that I was, let's say, a major help in winning the European Cup, and it was something he dreamed about. So I happen to believe that I helped fulfill a dream for him. And I think if you ask him himself, he'll tell you that all the bad times he'd forget for that one moment.
The cup they wanted was the European Cup. 100,000 expectant fans packed the stands to see great football. Bobby Charlton and Coluna exchanged Manchester United and Benfica pennants. The moment of truth in the battle for mastery of European soccer had arrived. United, playing in blue, kicked off. United launched directly into attack. Bobby Charlton took the ball into Benfica territory. Dangerous moments as the Portuguese defence tried to clear. Now Benfica came away. That mighty danger man Eusebio sent in a scorcher. It ricocheted off the crossbar. What an escape! Stepney, unrattled, collected the return effort and got United moving. George Best fell foul of the first of a series of savage tackles which marred the first half. Best again with the ball. He seemed to be a target for the stop-them-at-any-cost Benfica defence, but Italian referee Lobello let that one go. Benfica had the advantage, but met a stonewall United rearguard. Charlton was very unhappy with the ref's decision, and the visitors too had plenty to say for themselves. Benfica with the dangerous free kick. But what a great keeper Stepney proved himself. It was near the end of an unglamorous first half. No score by either side. With the eyes of the world on both teams and the hopes of every Briton behind United, the second half got underway. The Busby boys seemed fired with a new enthusiasm and stormed into the attack. United's football was full of fire. Enrique had to concede a corner to keep that one out. George Best was in terrific form, but so was Enrique. Benfica weren't going to let United run away with the match. They too showed they meant business. On the showing so far, United were proving the better side. Hard-working Best put the ball out to the left, where Sadler had been playing like a demon. The return centre was a beauty. Charlton headed it home. What a tonic for the fans. United 1 up in the 55th minute and going all out for another one. The match was by no means won. Benfica pulled off a beauty through Grasser. One all and time running out. Stepney was a wonder goalkeeper to stop that rocket from the big cannon boot of Eusebio, and the great Portuguese star sportingly acknowledged it. But that wasn't it. 90 minutes up and still deadlock. The teams were weary, but the fans weren't. With an extra 30 minutes of play ahead, bumps, bruises and tired muscles ached like they'd never ached before. But a wet sponge and a magic massage worked miracles. And so on into the first half of extra time. And what a 15 minutes it was. Stepney collected and fed his forwards. Waiting to receive was mighty Best. He simply walked the ball into the net. What a goal! United in the lead. And that wasn't all. The Busby babes were raring to go. They hammered Benfica. Watch this fantastic goal. My, oh my, how they cheered Kid, the birthday boy, for that super header. Even Stepney joined in. The Benfica fire had nearly been extinguished. But where United finished, not on your life. Bobby Charlton made it 4-1. Manchester United had well and truly done it. They were supreme soccer champions of Europe. At last, Matt Busby, the maestro of Manchester United, had groomed a team great enough to beat Europe's best. He was king of soccer. His wonderful 11 men were all princes.
After the game, I felt an anticlimax because it was all over. And the following couple of seasons, it became more of an anticlimax because the team really was on the slide, really. I mean, when you look 4 years later, they were in the second division. So that's what I was trying to say. I could see that it was a little bit, you know, when it happened, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to the club. But after that was an anticlimax because it should have kept going. You know, we should have done a Liverpool. We should have kept winning trophies, winning the league, winning European Cups, and we didn't. We went the opposite, which for a club the size of Manchester United was a little bit frightening when you look at it. I mean, they're still my club. I still think of them as my club.
Winning the European Cup in 1968 was the pinnacle of success for that superb United team. They also won the First Division title twice. It was the era of George Best, Denis Law and Bobby Charlton, three of the greatest individual players ever to grace the British game. A brilliant trio who enthralled packed grounds everywhere with skill and entertainment you won't find in the modern game. Denis Law had joined United from Italian club Torino in 1962 for the then staggering fee of £115,000. The swashbuckling Scottish striker quickly became the king at Old Trafford. He recalls seeing the young pretender to his crown for the first time.
Well, of course, he was only a young boy. I think he came with another Irish lad, and I had just joined United. Of course, they were building just after the Munich disaster, and I saw him in the gym down at our training ground in Salford. Two young boys, and absolutely tremendous skill. As I say, United building up after the crash. We had a bad start to the season, and we nearly went down that season, but in '63, and I remember the game here, it was at Old Trafford, and I didn't play, I was in the stand with Sir Matt Busby, and George placed against West Brom, and it was absolutely magnificent. It really was the start of the sort of side that United had in that '60s, of being a great side with the likes of Bobby Charlton, Nobby Stiles, Pat Crellin, David Herden, of course, this young lad who had come from Northern Ireland, young. I mean, when I came down from England, I was thin as well. I think I weighed about 8 stone. I think Bestie weighed about 7 stone. But you could see that he had everything. He had the skill, he was brave, he was good in the air. I mean, it sounds all cliches, you know, but he was good with both feet, he was brave, he scored goals, he never stopped running. Magnificent player.
Had he any weaknesses at all?
Can't think of any. Probably after, in the sort of the middle 60s going on towards the late 60s, when we really were a very, very good side. And we went to Benfica. We had taken a 3-2 lead. They were one of the great sides, probably the greatest side in Europe at that time. And we went there and we beat them 5-1. And Busby had an absolutely magnificent game. And of course, it was the time of the Beatles as well. And he was a good-looking guy, black hair, the long hair, single. And after that game, of course, he was called, I think it was El Beatle or whatever it was, you know. And he just, if it was a weakness in him, he maybe at that time just began to be a little bit greedy. You know, sometimes he would beat, he always beat 3 or 4 men, but he was trying to beat 5 or 6. So if it was a weakness, it maybe was around that time that maybe he should have passed the ball when he, earlier on. But that weakness is not a weakness as such. It is just maybe a little bit greedy, but appreciate it. But of course, when, at times, you know, I mean, we would, do you know football? You know?
Just a bit.
Well, when you're messing about in there and you knock a ball out, and Busby's got it, and he was on the flanks, and he would beat 1 or 2, and the ball should be yours, you know? And he'd say, hey, Busby, come on, let's give it to me. And he would beat another one, and he'd say, yeah, bang, in the back of the net, you know? So you say, you little
Was he a complex person at all?
I mean, Busby's had, as you are in the public eye, you get a tremendous amount of publicity. Sometimes, and a great many of the times, of course, it's not good, you know. And we've seen Busby over the last 10 or 20 years, you know, had adverse publicity. But the one thing that people don't know, the people who know him do, and he is a terrific lad. He is a lovely lad, and he doesn't do any harm to anybody. He does a lot of good stuff, which is never really taken out and come out in the media, whether it be television, radio, or the press. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't know about Busby. You think he's a sort of, you know, sort of star, with a big, and he's, you know, he's always out doing sort of the wrong things. But George Busby is a lovely, lovely lad.
When I got in the team, I played exactly the same as I did when I was a kid. You know, I didn't want to give the ball away, you know, because, you know, I suppose I was better than the other kids. And I tended to play the same way in the first division. And at times, I mean, they used to pull their hair out, both him and Bobby, you know, because I was, I suppose, basically playing the same as I'd always played. That, of course, changed with, you know, a little bit of experience, you know. He became a little bit less selfish. But I can understand it, you know, because I know what I used to do. I mean, if I beat a player 6 times, I wanted to come back and beat him 7 times. So I can understand their frustration.
Completing that priceless threesome was Bobby Charlton. 106 times he played for England and was a key member of the England team which won the World Cup in 1966. At Manchester United, he's something of an institution. As a player, after surviving the Munich air crash, he went on to serve the club for 16 years, playing in over 600 games. Today, he's still at Old Trafford as a club director.
The legend is that the two of you didn't get on and you didn't turn up to play in this testimonial, yet he said nice things to me about you. What was the relationship like with Bobby Charlton?
Okay, I mean, on the field, you know, we were teammates, and I think if you watch any old film clips and shots of the games, you know, if he scored, I was the first there to congratulate him, and vice versa, you know, because we played in the same team, and we were playing for the same end product. But off the field, you know, he had his way of living and I had my way. You know, he was a family man, he went home to the family, and I went out and got, you know, and so socially we didn't mix, and that was it.
Well, I mean, George was a different age group from me. People used to say to me, you know, that you didn't get on with George. I got on with George Busby quite all right. It was just that we were a different age group. I didn't go out with him because I went home. You know, I wasn't the lad that went out to nightclubs. I didn't drink particularly much. I had my own pals. But people who are a lot closer would probably answer that question better. Looking at it really from the outside, I would have to say really that some people whose intentions were very well-meaning with regard to George's own well-being, really he didn't listen to. He listened to the wrong type of people, I think.
Old Trafford at that time with all the players, he was a great fella. I think probably maybe the media were a bit to blame for what... They drove him mental. They wouldn't leave him alone wherever he went or whatever he'd done. They just wouldn't leave him alone. Being here at Old Trafford at that particular time and George being amongst him, he was a smashing little fella. He was no different from any of the rest of us.
Was he unlucky to be a good-looking Irishman and
I think that was his biggest problem, being good-looking.
being dubbed El Beetle after that great game against Benfica? Was that the beginning of the end, perhaps?
No, not really. I think the beginning of the end for George was when the team started getting a little bit older, and there was a lot of pressure put on George that he was going to be the one that would have to do everything himself. But unfortunately, sometimes when you've got a great side, they stay together for a long, long period of time, maybe 8 or 9, 10 years, and then when you have to make a change, it's not one change, it's 5 or 6 at the same time, and it's difficult.
Now, you were something of a father figure to George, and in fact, he ended up living with your family for a time.
That was the only way I could get out. No, George was... I mean, it's difficult to explain to people because people sometimes believe what the press write, and George wasn't what the press wrote about him. He was a lovely fella and a quiet lad, and I couldn't speak more highly of him. All the things that he was supposed to have done in life just weren't true.
I was glad that I played with him rather than against him. As a fullback, I think it must have been hell at times because I can remember personally players like John Angus right back at Burnley. I always remember John Angus because he's a good friend of mine, come from the same part of the country. And when you play against players and you talk about them, you talk to them socially before you actually play them. And George Best, I always remember turning John Angus, who was then quite a hard, tough fullback, and he turned him inside out, really. It was embarrassing to see a friend embarrassed like that, really. I mean, he was the ball through his legs, going in the direction that he thought George was going in, but never did. And that's one of the first matches when George first came into the team against a very strong, capable fullback. But George didn't have any illusions about it. He thought that he was a fantastic player, and it didn't matter who he was playing against. He held no esteem to anybody. He was going to beat them, and it was quite impressive as a young player to see this happen. Embarrassing to see your friends humiliated sometimes, you know. But nevertheless, he was a fantastic little player. The problem with George was it never lasted long enough. But the period that he was here, I mean, he's held in awe here, you see, by the people at that particular time because they'd never seen anything quite like it. And they were lucky that they saw it every week. And he was always brave, always positive, always wanted to do things. Absolutely marvellous player.
This football in the museum at Old Trafford is a lasting reminder to George of one of the more memorable moments in the best career. It's the ball used in United's 5th round FA Cup tie against Northampton Town in February 1970. United won 8-2, with Best celebrating his return from suspension in style, scoring a double hat-trick.
Farrand, good ball to Kidd. Morgan's in the centre, Charlton's coming through, Best is there, and Best! Now Rankmore for Northampton. Well cut out by Sadler. Farrand, and George Best through, that run into his path beautifully. Book is committed and it's a goal! Charlton, through to Kidd. Best is in the middle and onside. Morgan is coming to bring support. Kidd. Best, his hat-trick. No, now! Brian Kidd. Best waiting hopefully in the middle again. Cut out by Brooks, but straight back to Kidd. Best! It's in! "16 minutes into the second half, and George Best gets Manchester United's and his own 4th goal. 4-0 Manchester United lead. Back header, Kidd! Number 5 from Brian Kidd. Burns quickly in the game and putting Best through, and here goes Best. It must be his 5th, surely. Yes, he's rolled it in! This incredible player, his fifth goal of this game, his 19th of the season. Francis Burns, his first touch of the ball, strokes a beautiful through pass, and George Best does the rest. Nice ball from Best to Burns. Morgan here with a chance for another one. Saved, but it's scored now by Brian Kidd. Brian Kidd's second. Edwards coming to challenge Felton. Kiernan and Kieran in again. To Best. Here he goes! And George Best sets a club scoring record. 6 goals in a match.
In 1976, disenchanted with English football and tired of being hounded by the British press and media, Best headed west, taking his skills to the then booming soccer scene in America. He was to play 5 summers there, with Los Angeles Aztecs in California, Fort Lauderdale in Florida, before completing his soccer safari in the sunshine back in California with the Earthquakes of San Jose.
It was exciting because it was a new sport for them. They were bringing, you know, Pele was going there, Beckenbauer, Cruyff was there, Neeskens, you know, Eusebio, all the best players in the world were going there. And it was nice to go there and be in at the start of something that was really exciting. The Americans, when they put their mind to it, are the best in the world at presenting anything. And I was in on the ground floor, and it was big crowds, the organisation. The razzmatazz was a little bit difficult to get used to, but that's the American way. So after a little while, you just fell into it. But it was, from my point of view, it was nice because I could walk down the street and nobody knew me, you know, apart from maybe the areas I was playing in where they got to know you a little bit. But I could do normal things. You know, I wasn't getting in fights in the street, people driving me crazy. I could take the dog for a walk, I could go to the supermarket. So from that point of view, it was nice. And I made friends because of me, not because of what I was or who I was, because of me. And I've probably got more close friends in America than I've had here since I was 15.
George, I think when we look back to your time of playing in America, I think everybody's still talking about that marvellous goal you scored for San Jose.
Well, it was just one of those things. I mean, I look at it today and I still don't know how. It was like watching somebody else. And actually NBC, I think, or one of the big American networks actually showed it on their program, which for them was, I mean, I think it's the only time they've ever shown football, soccer as they called it. It was nice because I was playing against one of my former teams, the team I'd played for the season before. And we were losing 2-0, and it was the playoffs. I mean, so if we lost, we were out. It was, I don't know, it was just one of those things. It just, you know, they kept disappearing. I don't know what it was. I remember watching it the first time, and I was actually counting how many players. It was just one of those marvellous things, you know. It was a one-off, you know, and even though it was in America, I remember someone saying once that in this country, when they saw it, well, he wasn't actually playing against any, but there were 2 lads in their team who had played in English First Division. They had a Chilean international. They had a fellow called Cubillas, who played for Peru, who was brilliant. They had a couple of lads who played in English Fourth Division, and they can get stuck in as well. So I mean, it didn't matter. If that had been on a park with 7 and 8-year-olds, it still would have been a great goal. So it gave me a lot of pleasure. And as I said, we were losing till I made it 2-1. And I scored the second goal, funny enough. Went to overtime, and I hit the bar, and centre forward knocked it in. So the whole game, it wasn't a bad game overall. Yeah.
In January 1978, George married English model Angela MacDonald-Janes in Las Vegas. They have a 6-year-old son, Callum Milan Best. The couple are now divorced, but still friends, as we discovered on our visit to Blondes Club in Mayfair. George is there to meet the customers. His management company has an interest in the club. Angie also works for the club in a public relations capacity.
George is a man who very rarely says no to people. He's played in 150 testimonials that I can think of. He's never said no to anybody who needed him. And I don't think that the Irish people on a whole should say no when he needs them. I think that you should pay homage to him now while he's still here, not when he's dead. And his good points are unfathomable. I mean, you know him as a person. And to know him is to love him. He doesn't really have bad points, either than most of the sons of Ireland have the bad points that George has, and that's an affliction which most of them have.
And
Which is one we forgive, by the way.
You are divorced, but I do get the impression you're still very fond of the man.
Oh, you can't help but be fond of him.
At the same time you were playing in America, you were playing at Fulham with Rodney Marsh. There didn't seem to be any pressures then at all. It seemed to be a very happy time.
Well, Rodney and I played the same way. We played for fun, you know, and we're both, I like to think, well, I know that Rodney says the same. We're entertainers, apart from being footballers and sportsmen. And if, you know, I remember the games at Fulham, it was fun. You know, we were laughing and joking and enjoying ourselves. And the fact that the cameras were turning up at games like, we were playing Hereford, and there was 25,000 people there, and the cameras were there. You know, it was just, and I mean, Rodney came out with a classic of all time when he went to America about English football, said it was a grey game played by grey people on grey days, you know, and that's what was happening to the game. And we come back, and for those short couple of years, everything was all, people were laughing, you know, the crowds were coming back, and we did it for fun. It was nice, and it was the 2 seasons we were there were tremendous.
Best. Got out for a shimmy. Oh, a yard of space. A delightful little chip there to Mitchell. Brilliant play again by George Best. Nicely played pass again for Mitchell. Marsh. Touched in again. It'll come now through to Barrett. Marsh on the far side wanting the cross, and yet another corner for Fulham. Well, it's all Fulham at the moment with 20 minutes gone, no score. Barrett again with it. Ernie Howe up in there, Mitchell, Marsh. On the edge of the area is Best. Carter getting it away. Cutbush. Slough. Mitchell setting a little dummy. Slough going through. That's the goal by Alan Slough. Lindsay now to Burrows. Oh, a bit of space there for Davey. He's gone through them. Is this the equaliser? Good save by Fiedemera. And Cutbush now to Best. Space ahead of him. Terry Payne coming back as hard as he can. Payne still after him. Still Best going on. Tripped. Free kick. And Fulham quickly getting on with the game. The ball with Marsh. A touch now for Cutbush. Hit low there. And it'll come now for Evanson. Oh, a tremendous goal. 2-0. Best. That's the Best. Oh, my goodness, he hit the post. They're strong for Fulham. Best. Oh, what a ball there by Best to Marsh. And a beautiful save by Charlton and Marsh, jumping all over Burrows. Nice jump by Mitchell. Marsh there to collect. Well, he wrong-footed them all there. And a lovely ball for Best. Now can he do the same? Onto the right foot. Mitchell on the far post. Marsh with the header. Best making his presence felt there again. Now it's John Evanson for Fulham. Played inside for Marsh. Looking around, seeing who he can pick up. Decides to go one in. Oh my goodness, what a goal! Oh, what a tremendous goal by Marsh. Moore heading that one away. And now Marsh and Best are up. Best inside his own half, Marsh brought down, and Best on his way. Now he's got Tyler to beat. Oh, and in the end, Burrows came up so quickly to dispossess him, and Marsh remonstrating with the referee that he was bowled over away in his own half. Strong, and now Best. Hurdled beautifully over Tyler. Took it off Rodney Marsh. Marsh coming back to tackle him. Well, you can do that when you're 4-1 up. Here's Mitchell. Free kick, right on the edge of the box, given away by Galley, who's had a fairly rumbustious afternoon, this big number 5 of Hereford. Another smile. And they're cooking up something. Well, the goalie will want a clear view of this. You can take my word for it. Best and Marsh will be cooking up something. And it almost came off in an unexpected way. Lobbed up by Best. Hit by Marsh. In fact, there was a handball before it came to Ernie Howe. Here's Best again, from that pass by Marsh. Played on now for Mitchell. Marsh and Best are right up there. Curled it just wide. That was John Mitchell turning on the style a little bit. Mitchell. Best again. Now taking on Burrows. There's Best. Oh, and saved by Charlton, and saved well.
A couple of top strikers who played against Best were Scotland's Ian St John and England's Jimmy Greaves, better known nowadays as the Saint and Greavesy, two of television's most popular soccer pundits. I joined them in the Saint and Greavesy studio in London, and as you'd expect, the discussion had its lighter moments. But soccer's best-known double act also gave frank opinions about one of the world's top solo artists.
We were all footballers, but he was a little bit special because he could do things, just spontaneous things that only a genius could do. And I just feel very aggrieved that George couldn't handle the situation he was in and play right through his career, because we as fellow players at the time missed him when he left. And I'm sure that millions of fans, not only in the UK but around the world, missed George Best on the big stages of the world, you know.
And looking how it all went wrong for him, Jim, do you feel he was unlucky being a good-looking Irishman with a twinkle in his eye?
There's no such thing as a good-looking Irishman, Jack.
Looking at how you said that.
No, well, he might have a twinkle in his eye, but that's about it. No, I feel with George Best there was a problem from the off. You see, I've got a feeling that there are a lot of people that can't carry the burden of being a genius, and I think George Best was a genius.
Well, I mean, you look at the great players of today, the Maradonas of the world. I mean, the pressure that boy gets, I mean, all around the world. You know, I mean, he goes around with a dozen security guards, but he's able to handle it.
George was a born natural footballer who came from Ireland, and I don't think he could live with the situation within himself, not with anybody else, but within the pressure built up in his own mind and his own body.
Let's talk about the testimonial.
Testimonials usually are for players who have really put something into the game. And this is a testimonial, it's a thank you, isn't it? Now, you couldn't say that George really put an awful lot into the game for his country or his clubs, because he packed in when he was like a 27-year-old. And during that time, I mean, he went absent quite a bit and gave a lot of people some aggravation, you know, including Matt Busby and everybody else after that. George has had a lot of chances in life.
Sure, I appreciate everything you're saying, Ian. All I'm saying, though, is when you say that he didn't give a lot to the game, you know, I saw one game of George Best is equivalent to 10 years of another player's mediocre performances, who also earn a lot out of the game and really put very little back.
The original decision to veto the game sparked off an outcry from the public, but many still felt he didn't deserve the testimonial, claiming that George could have played more times for his country. How does he defend himself against that accusation?
If I hadn't spent 10 years in America, I probably would have got close to Big Pat, playing-wise. So I lost 10 years almost, you know, because I wasn't living in this country. So that cost me a lot of caps. And also, when I played at United, we were always in Europe, you know, so a lot of the times when Northern Ireland were playing, Manchester United were playing. But there again, at the end of the day, you're leaving it up to the general public. You know, if someone thinks I don't deserve it, you know, they don't have to come. If someone wants to come and say thank you in whatever way they want to, that's also up to them. I mean, I've never ever refused anyone as far as playing for them is concerned. I've played in between 300-400 testimonials, and I do it because, you know, I do it out of respect for other players, and that's why not only the players who are going to come, but the people who are going to come, they're going to come, I hope, out of respect from the football side of it. Because I don't think many times I've played at Windsor Park there were many empty seats.
He's a very complex person. I think you find this in any walk of life when you're dealing with a genius, irrespective of what they're doing. And George was a genius as a footballer, and he thinks and acts and behaves like a genius. Quite eccentric in his own way, but tremendous guy with it.
Looking at his international career, no one knew George better than goalkeeper Pat Jennings, a legend in his own right who won 119 caps, a world record. Best, his roommate on Northern Ireland trips, only played 37 times for his country.
Playing for Ireland, Georgie Best, who usually plays with Bobby Charlton for Manchester United. But this time, Charlton robs him of the ball. England force a corner, and Charlton's accurate kick is met by Martin Peters, who puts England in the lead with a driving downward header. It stayed like that until half-time. England were finding the Irish team hard to beat midfield, and they were sometimes struggling against well-planned Irish attacks. Then the equaliser came from Best, who beat Nobby Stiles before crashing the ball into the net.
You were his roommate in the early days with the international team, and you were very close friends. What sort of a character was he then?
Basically the same fella as what I know now. Very, very quiet fella. And I don't think he's changed. It's just people's attitude toward him has changed over the years.
When he was at his peak as a player, how would you have rated him?
Over the last 23 years, without a doubt, the best player I've seen. I'd put him well on a par with Maradona, and I've played with him and against him in the last 2 years. Just, as I say, in a class of his own. We've had our great players in this country, the Greaves, Charltons, Laws, and George was definitely a pedestal above them.
Well, I can never sort of say who's the greatest in football. How can you compare Pelé, Maradona, Johan Cruyff, and say that one of them is actually the greatest? You can't. But I would say that George Best lives alongside those names, and there was never a better player than George Best.
Did you see any signs of it going wrong for him, Dennis?
I suppose maybe towards the late 60s, when Samat, who had had a terrible injury in the crash, you know, he wasn't at his best, and maybe towards there when George started to sort of maybe go in the blink a little bit. Maybe Samat wasn't sort of hard enough or tough enough, because I remember when I went on the blink in the early 60s, I soon got a rap over the head. Matt was not too well, and maybe at that time George should have been told maybe to calm down a little bit.
People could see where he was going and were trying to warn him. People like Sir Matt Busby, I presume, I'm no doubt he will tell you this, tried to say that if you're not careful, this is what happened. And everybody hoped that George Best would never get into this situation, which he almost seems to be in now, you know, in a void out of the game, not really thought of a lot, and it's a tragedy, really.
Maybe we should have all helped a bit, but, you know, we've got our own life to lead as well. He was a terrific player. He did, the one thing he did do, whatever was said about him, when he went on the pitch, he, as they say in the trade, he did the business. And really that what it was all about. So there's no blame to anybody. I don't think anything would have changed or would change if he had to have his life over again.
I was Footballer of the Year in '73, and straight away that brings more pressure. So from that point of view, I could see just what he was going through, having to play to the pressures of being the best football in the country. I had it for a couple of years, but he had it week in, week out for all the years that he played.
Would you be critical, though, because he couldn't withstand those pressures? And after all, you were at the top for over 20 years.
Yeah, no, I'd never be critical of something like Best. But, no, it's very, very hard for him. I mean, I would think probably that the problems that maybe Manchester United had at that time, they were going through a very bad spell. And I would say that he kept them in the First Division for a couple of years on his own. And I think that was probably at his best time. And perhaps maybe he felt that he should have been playing in European competitions every other week. And I think probably that tired him more than anything.
You've done many things, you've achieved many things. You've also had your problems, which have been well chronicled. Have you enjoyed life in the fast lane, or have you regrets?
I've enjoyed life in the fast lane, and now I'm enjoying it in the bus lane. I've had good times and bad times, but I think at the end of the day, I'll always remember the good times. The bad times, I try and put them out of my mind. The old problem, the drink problem's always going to be there. I mean, I don't kid myself anymore. I used to think, I'll beat it one day. I don't worry about it now. If I beat it, I beat it. If I don't, I don't. And I'd rather think like that than drive myself crazy, worrying about it.
In this programme, we've seen the best genius. But what if he was playing today? Would he fit into the modern game? Would he enjoy it? And what would his value be on the transfer market?
You couldn't buy him today. When I see the likes of, somebody was quoting John Barnes as good as George Best, you know, it's a great player, John Barnes, and a highly exciting player, and he was £1 million. No comparison.
To have a skill like that, I mean, they would pull the stadium down probably if he was here and you actually thought of selling him. At that particular time, it's just unheard of, and you couldn't put a value on him. The way that it seems to have gone, I think it probably is more than likely that he would have been tempted abroad. In which case, at the present time, you know, you're talking about a few £1 million, good few £1 million.
Dear. Well, when you see some of the players being transferred for, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million, George Best is probably in the top, say, 6 players that the game has ever seen as being one of the top 6. So if Maradona's worth 5 million, George Best's got to be worth 5 million.
I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, in the early days, there was players like the lad Daly at Wolverhampton, Robson, Andy Gray. They went, what, 10, 12 years ago for £1.5 million. I wouldn't have a clue, you know. I would say probably 5 million, cheap at the price. We're talking about 10, 12 years ago.
When one looks at Maradona being sold for £5-6 million, I would say George would be at least worth £10 million. I'll give you an example of the sort of esteem in which George is held. Maradona was travelling over from Italy to watch England and Brazil, and I know on very good authority that the first question that he asked when he got on the plane to come here was, could I please meet George Best?
How would you like to be remembered?
As the greatest footballer that ever played. And Pelé said I was, so that's good enough for me.
Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. Georgie, Georgie, they call you the Belfast boy. They say, Georgie, Georgie, keep your feet on the ground. Georgie, Georgie, when you listen to the sound. Georgie, Georgie, put a light on your name. Hey, 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 play the game. Play the game. Oh, play the game.
Windsor Park earlier this evening when a near-capacity crowd had assembled in spite of the rain for the soccer showpiece of the year, the George Best testimonial. And in the dressing room, alongside some of the game's biggest names and best-known faces, the main attraction is getting ready.
Well, relieved that it's, I'll just be glad to get out. As soon as the kick-off, it's all, the hard work's done, you know, all the boys are here. And it's just going out now and enjoying it, and hopefully the fans will be the same. As I say, the hard part, all the little worries and the little problems, they're all behind us now, and we've ended up with 2 tremendous squads, and it's just going to be a good night, you know. Looking forward to it tremendously.
And just listen to this welcome. George Best, son Callum, alongside him, the entrance of a superstar. He said he's been looking forward to this moment. He said it would be emotional. And after a welcome like this, he must be really choked. This is what tonight is all about. And an amazing sight here at Windsor Park. Everyone on their feet to welcome the main attraction. Well, here's the George Best lineup and some great names, both past and present here. Jennings, the West German Paul Breitner. From Holland, there's Rudi Krol. From England, Dave Watson, Emlyn Hughes. Add to that, Brady, Henderson, McAvenny, Michael O'Neill, and guess who's wearing number 11? Looking at the international 11, more top names. From the past, Johan Neeskens and Johnny Rep, both of Holland. From the present, there's Ozzy Ardiles, Roy Aitken, the Celtic and Scotland captain, Trevor Francis from Queen's Park Rangers and England, and some Northern Ireland names here, Alan McKnight, Alan McDonald, Colin Clark and David McCreary. And two Linfield players, Darren Coyle and George O'Boyle. It'll be quite a night for those two young men. So we get underway with the George Best 11 side, wearing the green striped shirts, playing from left to right. The international 11 in the red and white shirts. A superb occasion. Sadly, the weather hasn't matched up, but the pitch in immaculate condition. I assume the game will be fairly easy paced in these opening stages. Great ball from Brady. Not a great touch. First touch for George Best. This really is the biggest crowd we've seen at Windsor Park since the Pat Jennings testimonial in December 1986. George scored a goal that night, George Best. I wonder if the script tonight includes a goal from the man himself. George O'Boyle. Nice skills from Liam Brady. McAvenny finds Brady. Michael O'Neill. Best is wide and plenty of space. This is what the fans want. Good ball, in goes McAvenny. It's not away yet, it is now. So the first corner kick of the game to the George Best 11. The right foot. O'Neill puts it back in. And that's Ardiles. O'Neill running out of space, a chance for the international 11 to break. This is Colin Clark. Plenty of men in the middle. Trying to barge his way through, a chance, and a goal! He can't believe it. Dealer's putting plenty into the game so far. Here's Clark. Still Clark. They're in the middle. Ardiles just can't find the space. It's with O'Boyle. Francis. Still Francis. The left foot. And he finished perfectly. Great goal from Trevor Francis. Ardiles and Francis should catch this. Ardiles, Clark, will he try one? He might now. Lovely dummy. Is it 3-0? It's not. And here's George. And you heard the buzz come up again there. Lays it inside, Brady. Breitner. Best. First time. Henderson. Plenty of green shirts in the middle. That's Rudy Kroll pushing forward. Brady. The space this time. And the left foot straight and true. Lovely play from Liam Brady. But here come the Reds again. Trevor Francis. Just too high for George O'Boyle. Rep. Kroll in the way. Ardiles. Nice cool play from Dave Watson. Best. The rain still pouring down here. The umbrella's up, but the crowd enjoying this. Lovely open football. O'Neill.
McAvenny. Still McAvenny! I was going to say great goalkeeping, but it's crept over the line. And smiles from Frank McAvenny. It's 2-2. So some 17 minutes gone, and we've had 4 goals. It's all square at 2 apiece. O'Boyle makes the run. Dave Watson lets him go. Some people, of course, were against the idea of this testimonial, but this crowd, the response for the tickets would suggest many more were for it. People here tonight for this game from America, from Canada. The ticket applications, well, they came from every corner of the British Isles. Such is the reputation of George Best. In fact, Ulster Television had requests from many European television stations for pictures of this game. George Best, a name well known in Europe, and he really did put the name of Northern Ireland soccer on the map. O'Neill, but just cut offside. Aussie art dealers. And here's a chance for George O'Boyle to make a name for himself. And he does. Lovely goal by the Linfield youngster. Francis finds Colin Clark. All the way across to Darren Coyle. Johnny Rep. Trevor Francis. Lovely chip, and just over. Lovely skills from Trevor Francis. He enjoyed that. There's the skill. Saul Jennings off the line slightly, but just inches away. McAvenny for the best 11. And here's Best in full flight. Cuts inside. Confronted by McCreary. Looked to curl it. Still Best. Breitner. Is it 3-3? It is. And he's worked hard for that, Paul Breitner. Francis. And there's a great goal. And I think it's Colin Clark. It is. Francis. And Hughes had turned away from that one, but he got it cleared. Best. Finds the other little man. Willie Henderson. Looking for help. Finds it in Best. Emlyn Hughes pushes forward. Michael O'Neill. The green shirts looking for an equaliser, of course, just before half-time. It might come. Rudy Kroll. Good effort. Good effort from the big Dutchman. Here's Brady. The left foot, the chip, and it's for each. And that is brilliant. We're now into injury time in this first half. It's been slow paced, but it's been very entertaining. There goes the whistle now. I was saying it's been slow paced, but it's been very entertaining. The crowd showing their appreciation. Ardiles. Clark. Johnny Rep. McDonald. Falls for Trevor Francis. They're all getting in each other's way. And a chance for the Greens to break forward with Wayne Brady. Kasky making a run. Emlyn Hughes, has he the pace? Gives it to Best. Hughes again. McCoy tries to place it, and he does it beautifully. Raymond McCoy from Coleraine. Here's Paul Breitner. Best. The crowd urging him on. That looks like a very good ball. McCoy. Brady looking for a hat-trick. Best against Darren Coyle. Heads for the line. Looked for the chip, but Alan McKnight equal to it. Dave Watson leaves it for Kroll to McCoy, who's just put his side 1 goal in front. Rudy Kroll. Best again. Tries the chip. That's what we've waited for. And look at the size of that smile. And he couldn't have scored a better one. Here's Emlyn Hughes. Best. Flicks it up. Left foot this time. Brady, but offside. Chris Hutton. So 10 minutes left. 10 goals we've had. The best 11, 6. The international 11, 4. The biggest talking point of the night. We've had a few good goals, but we had a great one from the main man, George Best. Johnny Rep finds Aiken. Francis Aiken going through, scored the first goal of the night. He's got plenty to aim at, and that's, would you believe it, Bill McMurdo. It was a good goal. Paul Breitner. Breitner again. Still Breitner. Emlyn Hughes, is it his turn? It's not. Holds his head. I don't think it was that wide, Emlyn. Francis to Rep, to Francis. Are we looking at an equaliser here? Colin Clark. Aiken tries to guide one. Almost made it. Big tough player is Roy Aiken. Dunlop gave it straight to Trevor Francis. And it's 6-6. Twelve goals, 6 apiece. 13, not this time, a penalty kick. Now, I think there may be some protests about that. But referee Donnelly had no hesitation. I wonder who'll take it. I think it might just be the number 11. The 13th goal of the game. It is. With just under 4 minutes left, he must be feeling tired now. In fact, the referee has called a halt. He may have thought the players were feeling the pace. My watch may be wrong, but the game is over. 7-6 for the George Best 11. The score doesn't really matter. It's been a feast of football. We've had a capacity crowd, and it's been a great tribute to one of the greatest players the world has ever seen. It's been a marvellous night for him, Pat Jennings.
Yes, delighted. Fantastic turnout, both player-wise and supporters. Great night.
And the supporters have really enjoyed it. The players have enjoyed it. And it is great to see so many great players, both past and present, coming to Belfast to pay tribute to that man there.
Well, George Best, the end of the big night. Your side have won the game. Let me take you back to the start. What about the welcome?
Oh, phenomenal. I mean, it was just... I expected a good way, but you can't. I mean, you can't explain it. You know, the crowd were fabulous. You know, it's pouring down with rain, and they're standing here as if they didn't have a care in the world. You know, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah.
They were wanting you to score, and eventually you did. What about the chip?
Yeah, I thought I was never going to go in. Alan McKnight was brilliant. He was pulling them out from all over the place. At first, I was pleased with it. I mean, I just spotted him off his line. I thought, well, I'll go for it. And I think the second one might have been a bit contrived, but
I think there'll be arguments about the
decision.
decision.
Yes, I think if it was a World Cup final, it might have been a bit of a fuss. But I'm pleased with the first one. And the crowd saw some fantastic goals. I mean, a couple of great goals. Liam Brady scored a great goal. Clarkey stuck one in, fabulous. And you know, they showed how the game should be played. Just a great night all around. I couldn't have planned it better. Brilliant.
And then at the end, what a send-off you got.
Yeah, even more special. You know, the welcome was tremendous, but the whole thing, you're running around with my little fella there. And he said to me, he said, "I'm nervous, Dad." I said, "You're nervous? How do you think I feel?" Just a great finish, yeah, terrific.
And the best boots, are they put away now?
I don't know. To be quite honest, it would seem a shame for me to come back and play here again, because that was special. It really was. I'll maybe play abroad in a few exhibitions and charity games, but that would be a nice one to finish off in Belfast.
So the end of a really special football occasion here at Windsor Park in Belfast tonight. The George Best testimonial. The final scoreline, George Best 11, they won by 7-6. The score is not important. The capacity crowd came here tonight to pay tribute to one of the best players the world has ever seen. We hope you've enjoyed the highlights from all of us at Windsor Park. It's good night.
They call you the Belfast boy, and they say, "Georgie, Georgie, keep your feet on the ground. Georgie, Georgie, when you listen to the sound. Georgie, Georgie, put a light on your name. Hey, hey, hey. Play the game. Play the game. Oh, play the game."
Three years ago, in Seoul, Great Britain broke 18 world records and brought home 182 medals. Next year, in Barcelona, we're going to prove once again that our disabilities don't get in the way of our abilities.